Hey paisanos, it's me, Hamish Steele, and welcome to another Super Mario moment. On today's episode, we are going back to the world of Paper Mario with its first ever entry, the second of the Mario RPGs. We're talking about Paper Mario, released in the year 2000 in Japan and internationally in 2001. It was actually the first Mario RPG released in the Europe region, so the first one I ever played, and I have a lot of intense memories and history and excitement tied up with this game's release. And to talk about this game, we have one of this game's relatively new fans. We have the host of the incredible and long-running Still Loading podcast. We have Josh Covel.
It's me. Hey,
Welcome.
paisanos.
I have not yet talked about the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, but I have some guests and listeners who have no idea why I say that at the start of the episodes.
Oh man, if they ever watch it, boy, are they in for a treat. That show is a fever dream of bizarre Italian stereotypes that don't actually exist, but also kind of do. It's a very strange show. The live action segments, you might as well. It feels like you're on acid. It's a wild show.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that Elvira has a page on the Mario Wiki because of that show.
You want to know something wild too? I want to. So a little bit of just context for it. So on my show, I do every month I do a review of a video game cartoon, and me and my buddy Dexter Morrill have been going through shows one episode at a time. So we did all of the Captain N episodes already, the entire Captain N run. Captain N, the Game Master, is done. And right now we're alternating every other month between the Zelda cartoon and Mario Super Show. And while I was doing, covering it and like watching it prior, one of the things I discovered is that, in just speaking of bizarre casting on that show, and it wasn't like they were a star in it per se. There's an episode in the live action segment where Mario and Luigi fight some type of like toilet like a bog monster. It's like a dude in a ghillie suit type of thing. The dude inside that ghillie suit, who doesn't get any lines, who is just there just to be like a plot device, is Patrick Dempsey, like famous actor Patrick Dempsey. He worked on the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. It's one of the most bizarre bits of trivia I ever discovered while doing the show.
Yeah, that's up there with like Bryan Cranston Power Rangers and all that kind of weird stuff. That's incredible. To just briefly mention the Zelda cartoon for 1 second before we actually talk about you and Mario, what do you think the percentage is of likelihood that in the upcoming live action Zelda movie, Link says, "Well, excuse me, princess"?
Okay, if it's just that, I could see the fact that they brought back the theme song from the Mario Super Show for the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out a few years ago. I would not be surprised, and I also would not be surprised if they did it very subdued. Like, he didn't do the whole "excuse me, princess." It'd probably be more like "excuse me, princess," or something very dramatic and serious. I could see that, but I don't think I could see it. If Link drops an "excuse me, princess" line, I'm gonna lose my shit.
It's funny because I don't think the tone of what little we've seen so far lends itself to those kinds of references.
I hope not.
But it's the kind of phrase that you could genuinely accidentally write into the script because it's a fairly obvious thing to say. If he says, "I'm so hungry I could eat an Octorok," then maybe we're in a different space. But I'm looking forward to it, shall we say, with some nervous but maybe misplaced optimism.
As long as they don't repeat the moonlighting dynamic, because apparently, so I heard this from my friend Jala. I was guested on her show, Jala Chan's Place, and she was talking to talk about the Zelda cartoon, and she met in her research a lot of the inspiration for the dynamic of Link and Zelda is moonlighting with Bruce Willis, and I guess Sybil Shepherd, I believe, is the actress who's and that the Legend of Zelda cartoon has convinced me to never watch moonlighting because I hate the dynamic so much. Like, Link is such a sexist, it's horrible. Like, it gives me chills.
I think that was just a style at the time, like that kind of wisecracking, always at each other's throats sort of dynamic.
Mhm.
I would be very surprised if that's the route they take. But to go back to Mario and you, let's talk about you and let's talk about still loading. So, what would you like the Mario moment viewers to know?
So yeah, my name's Josh, the host of the Still Loading podcast. I've been podcasting for oh god, like a decade now. But I kind of describe the Still Loading podcast as like a gaming grab bag podcast. It covers a little bit of everything. I do deep dives on individual games. I have interviews with people in the industry. I've interviewed voice actors and composers and game developers and stuff like that. But then I also try to do different series and different like kind of goofy ideas. Like I've been doing this rewatch series of the Super Mario Super Show and the Legend of Zelda cartoon. But then also, I would say this, and you've mentioned it, Hamish, that you're a big fan of RPGs. I was listening to your Mario 3 episode a little bit ago, and you
Mm.
mentioned it there too. So this might be germane to you or anyone else who's a fan of RPGs. Every year, I do this thing called the Final Fantasy Draft, which is what happens when you mix Final Fantasy and fantasy sports together. But you don't need to know anything about fantasy sports to enjoy it or participate in it. So it's a fun way to kind of break down Final Fantasy. So if any of that interests you, that's the Still Loading podcast in a nutshell.
That's great. I do love RPGs, but my bizarre blind spot is Final Fantasy, which feels like,
Really?
the first
Wow.
thing you do. But it's just because
Yeah.
I'm a Nintendo kid. So for a long
Mhm.
time, obviously, there was Super Nintendo and Nintendo games. And I mentioned before that actually a lot of RPGs didn't make it to Europe
Mhm.
because of the extra translation costs involved with translating it into like 5, 6 more languages. Um, and Paper Mario, I'll talk about this later, was like I would say my first proper RPG. And even then, some people
Okay.
might not call it a proper RPG, but it actually ignited a real love for that in me. But yeah, I'd love to do some Final Fantasy deep diving because so far the only games I've played, I think, are the 3 remake for the DS, I
Okay.
believe,
Okay.
which I enjoyed. Crystal Chronicles, which I just played at my friend's house one summer, and one of the rhythm games, and then
Theater
Kingdom
Rhythm,
Hearts.
I think is the name of it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So I've actually played like a lot of 7 on the Switch, but it got too hard for me and I stopped.
Okay. Okay.
um, but I know in my future going through all of them is like a big challenge for me. I'm currently going through Dragon Quest and I've played loads of other
Oh,
RPGs, but
God help you. That's a long series and long
yes.
games, depending on how far. I actually played Dragon Quest for the first time last year.
Mm,
I played 1 through 3 straight, and that was an experience. um,
mm.
but yeah, but no, if you ever get around to more Final Fantasies, you'll have to come on the draft because it's a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff.
I'm seeing obviously The Secret of Mana
Mhm.
and Chrono Trigger and stuff behind you. Are RPGs a big deal for you? Are they one of your favorite genres?
I would say I'm an RPG fan, but I wouldn't say I'm like an expert or like a diehard fan. Like I like
Mm,
RPGs well enough. Chrono Trigger is a big game for me, one of my favorites. Secret of Mana I've never actually beaten. I have the poster because I love like I love. Have you seen
yeah.
like the full? You know what I'm talking about with the? I knew it's gonna knock off. Hold on.
No, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, Paper Mario, obviously, a lot of these RPGs, they do something slightly different than what is Final Fantasy, which,
Hmm.
in my opinion, maybe a bit different these days, but is the like what a typical RPG is.
Yep.
All of these games do something a little bit different, and is
Yeah.
doing something a little bit different something that you look for in a game?
I was very surprised by Paper Mario because I had played Super Mario RPG prior to that. Was the first
Mm,
Mario RPG game I had played. So um, my experience actually with like playing Paper Mario was for my own podcast, literally earlier this year, which is why I was even saying like I would want to talk about this game. But yeah, like Mario RPG, like Paper Mario's RPG mechanics are very different than
mm.
anything I had experienced prior. So I'm sure there's RPG experts out there that would be able to describe it in much more eloquence than I could with a lot more like historical data to back up like the evolution of the genre. But at least for me and what I've played, it was very different than what I was expecting in a good way. I was very pleasantly surprised by it.
So, before we go on to talk about Paper Mario full time, were there other Mario games that you considered bringing on the podcast?
Yes, and they were most of them were taken already, whether it's World or 3, Galaxy, which like you said, you already have someone lined up for. I was considering that. I was also considering New Super Mario Brothers just because I know that game is a little bit more polarizing. From what I've read with the online discourse, like some people really like it. Generally, people a little bit younger than us really like it, and generally people our age and a little bit older are kind of a little more hesitant to it. So I liked it well enough, but then I was thinking like, well, which game did I play more recently? It was Paper Mario. But yeah, so I was considering New Super Mario Brothers, also Super Mario 3D World for the 3DS. Not was 3D Land. Sorry, 3D Land is the 3DS. 3D World is the Wii U. I really liked 3D Land on the 3DS, but once again, it's been a long time since I played it, and I wouldn't have had time to replay the whole game in time for this. So Paper Mario was kind of the way to go with it.
I'm very happy it is. And part of the idea of this podcast is it's going to get harder and harder for people to pick the big games. And I'm actually really looking forward to the more divisive and lesser loved Mario entries in the future.
There's a lot of good ones out there too, man. It's funny. So with Paper Mario, like you're talking about like it's going to get harder and harder as the series goes on. Like especially when you get to the RPGs, like if you want to play those, like they're long. I do a thing on my show every year called Mario Month, where, in the month of March, Mar 10 is like the big Mario day. So I figured that would be Mario Month. I pick like a theme and I just go through I go through 4 or 5 episodes, however many weeks of my show will come out in March. I cover Mario stuff for. This past year was Super Mario RPGs. So I did Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario, what's the GBA game? I'm blanking on it. Mario and Luigi.
Oh, Mario and Luigi, yeah.
Superstar Saga, that's what it is. And then Thousand Year Door, and then I did Partners in Time. And I played all 5 of them. I started so remember, they come out in March. I started playing them in November or like October, just so I would give myself time to just burn through all of it. And I'm doing the same now. I have another Mario Month prep time right now. Mario Month prep starts in November for me, so I am currently working through all my Mario Month prep for next year's. But yeah, so I say all that to bring it back to the fact of what you were saying, how it's going to be harder as the time goes on, because especially as there's more RPGs and longer games, like it's gonna be a tough plate to fill, or whatever the expression is.
I've been very grateful when my guests have decided, like a few episodes ago, I had someone pick the Mario Brothers arcade game, and I was like, great, that's an hour maybe of my life max that I can
any Game and Watch pickers yet?
We had a guest who gave me like 10 or so ideas, and that was one of them, and I know they collect them. But he also picked Mario Odyssey, and I thought like someone else is going to pick that if you don't. So I offered that to Drew Green, my guest. So without further ado, let's talk about the game of the moment, Paper Mario.
64毎日ゴルフにパーティーに近頃はテニスも始めて何か忘れてるようなそうだ冒険だペーパーマリオが仲間と一緒に謎を解く仲間と一緒に強くなるこの冒険は新しい任天堂64マリオストーリー Mr. Mario
Help!
Mario's back in a new adventure. He has new friends with special abilities. He has new enemies with funky attacks. But will he save the princess?
Help!
Find out in Paper Mario!
Rated E for everyone.
So,
Those are wonderful.
yes, Paper Mario, also known in Japan as Mario Story, as I said, was released in 2000 and 2001, respectively. Why this game? I know we've already talked that you played it recently, but why do you think this game immediately jumped to mind when I said, what Mario game would you like to talk about?
So I would say this one jumped to mind because one, I figured it wouldn't, compared to like other Mario games, not as many people might gravitate towards it. You know, if you're going Paper Mario, most people gravitate towards Thousand Year Door, which my hot take is I like this one more than Thousand Year Door, but that's besides the point. And also like it was fresher in my mind, and also I just thought it would be a little bit easier, like there'd be more for me to talk about with this game, because I think this game does a lot of really fun, interesting things with its mechanics that I was not expecting when I first played it. Also, the localization is fantastic, and like there's a lot to talk about with the localization choices that were made. Or at least just talking about the effort that it took to localize this game, considering when it came out, type of thing. So yeah, I really just thought this was it would be a fun game to talk about, because I enjoyed it when I played it earlier this year. Yeah, so that's why I chose this to talk about this for this episode.
And you mentioned that you like this game more than Thousand Year Door, but presumably you also liked it more than Mario RPG and Mario and Luigi.
I definitely liked it more than Mario and Luigi. It's a tough call for me with Super Mario RPG, because I really like Super Mario RPG. The reason why I actually didn't choose that over Paper Mario is because, assuming you're going to cover it at some point, my buddy, if this is, feel free to cut this out of the episode. My buddy Matt Storm is a wonderful podcaster. They host the Funny Games podcast, Reignite podcast, a bunch of other cool stuff, and they are a gigantic Super Mario RPG fan. They play it once a year. So when I saw this, I'm like, and you're going through all the Mario games here on Super Mario Moment. I'm like, maybe I should pitch Matt to Hamish to see if like Matt would be a good guest for them. So Matt's awesome. Definitely recommend checking out their shows, but short of that, compared to the other Mario RPGs that I've played, this one, next to Super Mario RPG, this is the one I had the most fun with.
Mario RPG definitely has some very hardcore fans. It has a similar, I would say, fan base to something like Earthbound or Chrono Trigger. I think it arrived at a real moment of like Westerners discovering RPGs for the first time. But Paper Mario was that for me, and I remember following its development very closely in Nintendo magazines at the time.
Oh, okay.
Partially because Nintendo UK magazines had covered Mario RPG, and then it never came out, and I have a very distinct memory of being like upset about that. Without even really knowing what an RPG was, but the concept of just like a Mario adventure game where you got to like explore towns and talk to characters and have friends, like that was very exciting to me. So I have very vivid memories of the very first screenshots of Paper Mario coming out, and they were different. They were like beta builds of the game. But I wanted to take one just short segue into chatting about the game's development. We'll talk about this maybe later on, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but this game was in very, very early inception going to be a straight sequel to Mario RPG. Mario RPG 2 for the N64, and Square were considering making it, but this was just before the release of Mario RPG, where they essentially became exclusive to Sony and PlayStation, and couldn't work on Mario RPG because they were making Final Fantasy VII. Never heard of it. Never amounted to anything.
Whom among us have played that game? Whom?
Even I've never played Final Fantasy, and even I've played it. So that's great. But a small group of the developers of Mario RPG started a new company called Love Delic, which
Wait, really?
I'm definitely pronouncing wrong. Love D-L-I-C, Love Delic. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe, I mean, if it's Japanese pronunciations, the I would be like an E sound, so maybe it's love to leak, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I could,
probably.
I'm speculating.
I definitely am not saying it right. But a few interesting little elements. They briefly developed a Mario RPG sequel, and there's kind of 3 pictures that have seemed to have emerged from some concept art by Mario RPG's monster and character designer Kazuyuki Kurashami. And here they are. I just wanted to show them because I found them interesting. So the first pitch and concept art was literally Mario RPG 2. We can see Mallow, we can see a few designs of Mario RPG type characters, and that's all well and good. But the second pitch is probably more intriguing, which is a Mario game in which Link, Samus, and this little character here who's called Dunbay from a game that did not come out in the West that I can't remember in the background here. But Link and Samus did make little cameos in Mario RPG, so this was expanding that and making them full party members potentially.
Can we just shout out the dude in the middle left of the picture who's menacingly holding a wrench at them?
Oh, yes.
I just love how he looks. Like it just, you can see he's like, don't you come close. I'm gonna wrench you to death.
We can see also a little hand cursor above Mario. So this is meant to be some kind of battle scene, which is interesting. And then probably the most bizarre, if you can think of this, it could get even weirder, is this, which is called Operation Rescue Mario. And if you can make it out, in the top left, Mario has been kidnapped by Bowser. And in the middle is Princess Peach writing a letter to all the other Marios that live in the world.
What?
And asking them to team up to rescue.
Is this a Mario multiverse that they were teasing?
They potentially were teasing the Mario multiverse.
What? This is crazy.
So these were some first thoughts. Eventually, this didn't end up happening, obviously, and we got, probably, thank God, Paper Mario, which, as I mentioned up front, was called Mario Story in Japan. And I think what's interesting about the 2 commercials I also showed was that for Japan, the art style is just the art style. I think maybe Japanese audiences were just more accustomed to games looking a bit different, or there being kind of art direction in different ways. Whereas in the West, Paper Mario became the title and its entire marketing campaign. And something that's interesting is that I would say the paper element is pretty minor in this game and then becomes the whole thing.
Yeah,
later on in the
it's very
series.
major in Thousand Year Door, and I have yet to play the ones after Thousand Year Door, but at least with, you know, my limited experience in the Paper Mario franchise, it like, yeah. That is interesting. I never even thought of, and it's also interesting looking at the comparisons of the marketing. Like the Japanese version, I mean, I don't speak Japanese, but what I got from like the pictures from the video was that he's like, well, I've already done this and I've already done that. Like it looked like Mario going through, you know, I've played tennis, I played this. I could be dead wrong with what they're actually saying in the commercial, but that's what I got from it. And the American one is just more of a straight up like comedy, like they're talking about the story that's going on and they're showing it with what if a paper version of Mario had to save the day, and you see a live action version, you know, like jumping off the cliff and stuff like that. It also got me thinking, I wonder if I have a buddy, Stefan Reese, who is the Art of Nintendo Power on, he hosts an exhibit. I wonder where that Paper Mario standee, like that they used in the commercial, exists. Is it still around, like that they filmed? I don't think Stefan has it, but if anyone that I know who would know how to track that type of thing down, it would be him.
I remember like magazine ads for this game where it was like a free demo and it would just be like a cutout of Mario that you could like cut out, which was kind of funny. But I do wonder, like, is the aesthetic of this game at the time was quite like revolutionary as an idea, like mixing 2D and 3D, that obviously. Do you think as a newer player of this, does it feel different? Does it feel unique?
It definitely does feel unique. Some research I did for my own show from this, the models they actually used for this were made with Super Famicom tools, like the
Mm.
the Paper Mario model, the 2D models they used for this game. They originally were going to use 3D models, and they decided that it was too close to Zelda and Mario 64, so they scrapped it and went with the 2D stuff, and they went back to their Super Famicom tools to create the sprites that we see in the game. And at the time, for my own experience, like when I first heard about this game, prior to me playing it for the first time, when I first heard about it, I remember seeing that commercial, like in the American one, and I remember watching it and being like, I don't feel this way now, but 11-year-old Josh was like, "That's stupid. Who would play a game where Mario's paper? What kind of an idea is that?" And then I remember years later seeing advertisements for the next Paper Mario game and being like, "They're still making these? Like, what's going on here?" Like, I had no concept of it at the time before I got further into video games and whatnot. So my first experience with it, at the time, I'm like, this is like, why would you do this? And now as an adult, though, like playing it now, I still think the visuals are refreshing because you, even though there are lots of games that kind of have a cartoony or like a paper craft or like some type of interesting art direction. I'm thinking of like Tearaway for the Vita with that whole kind
Mm.
of arts and crafts vibe. Like you're going to see games that do stuff like that, but you still don't see them all that much. Like what is it? The Game Awards from like the other year were like almost every trailer, or maybe it was the Summer Games Fest, but I remember every trailer was a gritty medieval like Dark Souls looking thing, and I'm like, okay, we get it. Like Dark Souls is popular, we get it. And like, I wish we would see more stuff like with interesting art direction. And so I do think, to answer your question, Hamish, like, yeah, this game still looks refreshing. Like even if you play it on an emulator, it still looks pretty good because the art direction is just so strong. So I really I think it holds up.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth on whether I prefer this or Thousand Year Door overall, but I really actually prefer the way this game looks to Thousand Year Door. And even the Thousand Year Door remake, like it's very polished, it's very beautiful, but there's something very cozy and um just lovely about how crusty some of this game looks. Like the sprites are pretty low poly, but it makes them feel so soft.
Mm-hmm.
And while it doesn't really look like paper, it's pretty clear from the Japanese title and marketing that wasn't necessarily entirely the intention. It's something else. There's storybook elements, like when you go into stores and stuff, everything folds up and there's little bits of tape sometimes in places. But it feels like it's going for something kind of unique. And it's funny you mentioned the like Super Famicom stuff because it looks a lot like I don't know if you've seen like Kirby's Adventure 3, I think, for the Super Nintendo, or Yoshi's Island as well. So there was like
Yoshi's Island, yeah.
a little bit of playing with the aesthetic in those
Mm-hmm.
games towards the end, and this feels like the evolution of that. In fact, in the very early first screenshots of this game I was talking about, it had like the big blue sort of lake creature in it, and it had a Poochie, the dog from Yoshi's Island. It felt very much like a continuation of that. So yeah, I love the way this game looks. I love the character designs. I love the menus. I love every little thing like that. And I kind of feel like the series has never looked better in a weird sort of way.
I almost wonder too, does it look good too? Like I feel like, so did my playthrough of it. I own a physical copy. I own the original one. But I don't really have like where I'm able to play it is I can't like put up my N64 and like, it's hard to play old systems on modern TVs. I have the means, but I also wanted to stream it, and it was really, I didn't have the methods to do so just yet, so I just ended up emulating it. But I wonder if like the game would look even better on an old CRT, an old tube television with lower quality inputs. Because I think sometimes a lot of those older games, they knew how people were going to play them, so they designed the art direction around that. That's why, like, when you look at like old like Sonic on the Mega Drive or something like that. And when you look at like an upscaled, like pristine version of it, some of the effects don't look the same. Like there's almost a little bit of detail lacking. It almost seems like too clean. And I wonder how this would look like on an original CRT. Now, I'm not talking like an upscaler with a CRT filter. I mean like an original CRT. Like how does it look? I may actually have to. I still have like a tube television up in my attic. I may have to break it out just for that.
I mean, I think it looked great as a kid, but nostalgia clouds all my thoughts. So I don't really know. But I played it on a old TV, and I don't know. It's just a very fun memory for me. So let's talk about the story and the game itself. It is an RPG after all, so you play a role and you have a story. Do you have any favorite kind of chapters or locations in the game?
I actually, when I was refreshing myself for this, I went back through it, and there's two that jump out to me. One is the toy box, Shy Guy's toy box. I don't know why. I know some people don't like that section. For some reason, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed because there's a lot of backtracking. You have to like leave the toy box and then like leave the toy box, go back in, and leave. That didn't bother me for some reason. And normally that type of thing really gets under my skin. Normally that type of thing with like in Thousand Year Door when you have to go around the whole world to chase that one. I forget what it was. There's that one dude that I forget what it's been a while since I played it, but I remember having to literally go to every single previous area to search for this one guy just to go back, and that drove me up a wall. I just looked up a guide for it because I hated that so much.
That was a very popular padding technique in the GameCube era. Wind Waker is most sort of infamous for that, but a lot of games had it then.
That's a very good point. And the second chapter, though, and it's just because of the plot point during it. It's chapter 7 in Shiver City, A Star Spirit on Ice, because the whole whodunit thing where Mario is framed for a murder that was not murdered at all. Spoiler alert for a 20-plus-year-old game, but the fact that he you have to solve like who did this to the mayor of Shiver City, and because his wife walked in right when you discover him like passed out on the ground, so she assumes that you murdered him, and you have to go clear your name. And I don't know why, but the whole like film noir type of like vibe, like murder mystery type of thing really just kind of vibed with me. It clicked. So I'm a fan of those two areas specifically.
I think that also stands out to me as a kid, just because it's the kind of story that had never been done in a Mario game. I mean, Mario games barely had story up to that point, but I never expected that kind of thing. So yeah, that really stood out for me as well.
And I also think like with the story of this game in general, it gave Mario a lot more license. Like if you look at kind of like how Mario games had evolved, like I'm going to steal a point from Retronauts, but like Super Mario Brothers 2, the North American version, which I know you covered, I believe, with Drew Mackey, I believe a couple of weeks ago, right? That game like kind of I feel like was the starting point. Like, okay, Mario can be different than what we expect it to be, and it can still feel like Mario depending on how we make it. Yeah, there's the whole story of Doki Doki Panic and the thing that's repeated a billion times over. That's a story for a different day. But then you get to like even like the Super Mario Land games that evolve into the Wario Land games, and like they're kind of like their own blend of weird. And then you get to Super Mario RPG, which actually has like you have full on writing. You don't have to have just everything's told through like goofy visuals or like different visuals. You can have full on writing, and Mario RPG's got some good humor in it. And then you come to this where I feel like they just, the training wheels are off and they're just smooth sailing. Like the story in this, it's interesting because it wasn't a priority for the game. I read an interview with the chief director, Ryota Kawade, and he spoke about how games at the time were prioritizing how games at the time were prioritizing story more and more, and it's Nintendo's policy to not compete in the same arena as everyone else. So they kind of focused less on story with this, and I think while they didn't focus on story, they really seemed to focus on writing. And I don't know if that's a credit to the original Japanese version or the localization team that localized it to the different regions, because the sense of humor, at least in the North American release, is like it's genuinely funny. There's actual jokes and it's well written, and localization is like it's magic, man. Like I know some people online specifically get bent out of shape about them changing things, but it's like there are such a things as good localizations, and I feel like this is one of them.
Yeah, I think it's that thing where you want to give Western or any other languages, you want to give them the same experience as the Japanese audience, and that isn't making sure that you change everything for word, like cultural references and puns and things should be adapted. And I feel like I have heard that, you know, the original is meant to be funny, and so is this. It's part of why the Mario RPG series, if you're including everything, with Mario and Luigi games and RPG, even the Rabbids games, which are sort of connected, they all have that in common. They're all just funny, and I think it's partly, up until this point, it was the Mario cartoons and the comics and the like less canonical stuff that was having fun with that. But I think the version of characters like Bowser in this game is the kind of same version we now get in the Mario movie and in the platform games. Like, this is where that concept of him, and this is one of the games where he is actually the primary antagonist. He's still threatening, but we get the other kind of side of the whole dynamic, him and Cammy Cooper, his relationship with Peach, his diary, things like that. What do you think about this take on some of its you know, the established Mario characters?
Oh, I like it. I don't know why I like this type of humor where you take someone who's supposed to be menacing, and the way you humanize them is to not give them a tragic backstory, but to make them silly, just to make them like they are supposed to be this big threatening thing. And like Bowser is in this game, like he messes up, he messes you up, man. Like with that, when he goes invincible with the Star Rod, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, at the beginning of the game, and like it's very clear, like he can mess you up. But when you have all those little Peach like interludes in between the main parts of the game, you get this like goofy look into Bowser's mind, and it's very cartoonish, it's very slapstick. And I mean it as a compliment, but it reminds me of like what you would see in the Super Mario Super Show, or my daughter lately has been very much into the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and like honestly, Bowser in this reminds me a little bit of Robotnik in that show, where it's very kind of like Looney Tunes esque. So it's I like it quite a bit. And you referenced that humor was a big focus. This is it definitely is, not just because you can literally see it in this game, but in the very next Mario RPG game that came out, the Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, that was an advertising tool in that game. They had when I was doing research for that one, they had a joke contest that you could write a joke into Nintendo to determine and the joke would eventually, I don't know if it made it into the game, or if you got the best joke, then you want a Game Boy Advance and you want a copy of the game. Now that game came out in like what, 2002, 2003. Can you guess what comedian they got? A comedian to judge it, to judge all the jokes.
Oh my god!
Do you want to take a stab at who you think did it? I'm going to bring up my notes to make sure I don't get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember who it is.
My instant thought is way too big. I was only thinking Robin Williams just because of that, like,
oh god, I wish,
connection. Was it Steve Martin? I don't know. That
would have been an interesting choice. I don't know. I don't want to say better, but it definitely would have been. It would have been something. The comedian, excuse me, who they got to do it. I gotta find where I put my notes too. But the comedian that they got for it was Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin was the comedian who
Okay, I
judged.
think that's funny.
It was
Wow.
pretty funny when I read it. I can't find it anymore, man. Are these my notes? There it goes. Yeah, do you want to know what the winning knock knock joke was? It was a knock knock
Absolutely.
joke.
Of course I do.
So knock knock,
Who's there?
pencil.
Pencil who?
Your pencil fall down if you don't wear a belt.
God, Kathy.
Well, and this is the last, because I know this isn't Paper Mario, so I'll get off of this. But
Okay.
I have her quote as to why she chose it.
Okay.
Okay. I feel inspired by this joke, not only to wear pants with an elastic waist, but to really listen to others about my personal style. Also, I like the notion that a pencil is a character in the joke, almost like a person with a funny name. When I think of naming my first child Pencil, I'm laughing already. That's the idea. Get it? Congratulations. And that's why there you go.
Was that joke written by like an 8-year-old?
Probably. I don't know. There's a whole. I'm going to stop going down a rabbit hole because I had a whole thing on it in my own episode for it. But yeah, there's some fun facts for you about that. But yeah, like, so to bring it back to how I kind of went down that rabbit hole, humor being a focus, it was like they had a literal, the very next game they had a knock knock joke contest judged by Kathy Griffin because they were really laying into the humor of the Mario RPG games.
No, I love that whole bizarre era of Nintendo interacting with like early 2000s celebrities.
Paris
like
Hilton holding a GameCube.
Yeah, the GameCube launch party, Alan Cumming, and there's just all kinds of bizarre people just like attending there. If I had a time machine, that's where I would go. Dinosaurs first, second, the GameCube launch party.
the two pivotal moments in Earth's history.
Of course. I mentioned the Peach segments. For me, this was definitely a highlight as a kid and really blew my mind that obviously you had been able to play as Peach before, but the very concept that this was like the first subtle subversion of the kidnapping Princess Peach plotline, I feel, where they were really addressing the fact that she has been kidnapped so many times that she's just kind of used to it and she's going to do something about it. Were you aware of these segments before starting the game?
No, I had no idea. I was a pleasant surprise though, because like normally these types of segments in games I would not be a fan of because it's kind of like it's. I understand they're meant to break the pace, like to break up the game, so that way you don't like lose steam. Like it's meant to change up the pace. That's the expression I was looking for, to change up the pace for the game, so that way you're not constantly doing this one thing for so long, and now you get this nice little like extra segment, and you go back to it. And normally, those segments, like in this Peach segment, have always been hit or miss for me. Sometimes I feel more like chores and like I have to get through this just so I can get back to the game that I want to play. And I never really got that with this because once again the localization choices and the writing, like this is where, like you mentioned before, like you see Bowser's Diary and Peach is reading Bowser's Diary, and that's really funny. There's also that moment where Bowser is interrogating Peach, trying to find Mario's weakness, and you can give him faulty answers where it's like, oh, don't give him a power-up mushroom, he's so terrified of power-up mushrooms. And so then in the next portion of the game, he tries all the things that Peach tells him, and they're all benefits if you were able to catch on to what was happening, but they're all benefits to Mario. Like, would he like this? Like, yeah. Or would he hate this? Like, yep, he would totally hate this power up, or hate this health thing, or hate whatever. I thought I like the segments because they have a good way of like interacting with the main world, but by doing it through storytelling. Or it's a good way to interact with your gameplay as Mario through the storytelling of Peach.
Yeah, and I love actually the structure of this game with the chapters and that Peach segment almost being a little reward. It's like a little sub story you get a section of. We've been praising the localization a lot, but I do have one question for them, which is, did they know what they were doing when they named a character Twink?
I don't think so. I am not part of the queer community, so I don't know the history of it. Was that a expression? Was that a term even back then?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I would say that a lot of sort of queer lingo and things like that has been around a long time, but it's not the kind of thing that people reference like they do nowadays. So I think it's not even like an offensive term. It's just a funny thing to call a little star character. And I would say I'd be remiss not to bring up my boy Twink on a Glitterjaw show, but it does make for a funny moment. If you ever watch people do playthroughs on who have never heard of the game, it is a funny moment of like, wait, what?
Twink. Twink's a fun character too. Just
Yeah.
like always running off to tell Mario what they. I always thought it was kind of weird because like they would tell Mario what you just heard from Peach.
Yes.
Which I understand whatever, but yeah, that I do wonder. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Twink was intentional because, like, you know, games stuck things in, like, they're stuck in jokes like that, or like just things like that, just as little subtle nods every now and then.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that even at the time, maybe someone would have said, "Do you know what that means?" And then they would be told, and we're like, "Oh, okay, whatever, that's fine. No one will care." It's a little bit different maybe now with the internet. I'm sure whenever like Pokemon are named, for example, they're Googling in every single language or every single thing.
We gotta check Urban Dictionary right away.
So aside from Twink, we're actually introduced to a bunch of new friends for Mario, a whole roster of party members. Do you have any particular favorites?
Yes, when I was looking through all the partners, I'm gonna shout out first off, Lady Bo. I love Lady Bo just because the first time that when she joins your party and you can see her attack move and she bitch slaps the crap out of the enemies, it blew my mind. I was watching this, I'm like, I want to be able to bitch slap an enemy out of existence. Are you kidding me? That's what she does for the entire game. It's great. And on the opposite hand, my least favorite was Goombario, which I know a lot of people like Goombario, but it's nothing to do with his character or anything like that. I just remember like the moment I got it, I'm like, I don't want you. I don't know what it was. Just I never used him in any combat scenarios at all.
That's very interesting because I would instantly like do the tattle ability to get the health bars and stuff, and so I feel like he's just my default guy. But I would say that, and you know, to put something in Thousand Year Door's favor, I think Goombella is a much more enjoyable character in that. I think she's just a bit funnier. Goombario is pretty blank slate. I think the same could be said about Koopa and Koops. I think they sort of perfect that a bit next game. But Lady Bo is a standout. I also find the design of Lady Bo and the design of Bombette as well very adorable. Lady Bo, I would say, is the character I would most want to like cross over into like the main Mario universe. I just think she's really funny. I would say also I've heard a criticism of this game and maybe the sequel as well, that you know, these partners don't exactly contribute to the story beyond their like little introduction. It's not like other RPGs where it really feels like a found family or like friends really forming. I sort of agree with that, but I think it's tough when Mario is also a kind of blank slate.
I also think it kind of works too for this because Mario isn't really like. What I think is so interesting about the early Mario RPGs is they do a really good job of blending Mario, like classic 2D platformer Mario game mechanics with RPG mechanics. You saw it with Super Mario RPG with the timed hits and everything, where they like, because you know, platforming is timing. You're making sure you're timing your jump at the right time or when the platform moves or blah blah blah. But all that you really had in Mario RPG was the timed hits, and in this one they do. They enhance that even further, where you know, like Koopa, or why am I blanking on his name? Cooper, excuse me. You put the joystick to the left and then you let it flick back to the center right at the right time to have his shell like shoot across the screen. Mario has the timed hits as per normal, but then every character has some type of timing based attack, and they change it up so it's not just timed hits, whether it's Cooper's shell or the what's his name, Watt what a great name, Watt's sun type of thing, like where you can, you have to hold it down and then release at the right time, or Lady Bow's smack the crap out of them. They're each, and same even with like Paracarry, which that was more of a straight timed hit type of, from what I remember. But I thought it was cool because it wasn't just what they did in Mario RPG. They added more to it. They created more almost physicality, even though I understand you're playing a game, but like you're having to do more physical moves and more timed hits than you were before. So I thought when I was playing this, I thought it was a really good marriage in terms of the gameplay of Mario, 2D Mario, and RPG mechanics. But then on top of that, even in terms of like story elements, like Mario's a lone wolf in the Mario games, right? Like he doesn't really interact with them so much. So when you have party members in this, it also kind of makes sense, at least for the time. Like I'm not saying it should be that way now, but if you're thinking of it back when this is coming out, like, yeah, they're not going to be that involved in the story for when, especially when it's very much developed almost by, I know it's developed by Intelligent Systems, but like when it's developed more closely related to Nintendo. Super Mario RPG was developed basically by Square with Nintendo's blessing. So like you're getting a Final Fantasy, but a Mario version of a Final Fantasy. So that's why I feel like the characters probably mix a little bit more. To me, this feels more like a Mario game turned into an RPG than Super Mario RPG did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even when the original Mario RPG was initially pitched, they had conversations about like, would Mario have a sword? Would there be like magic? Would it be an actual crossover? This feels almost more naturally like we've been focusing on RPG a lot, but if you just bought a kid the new Mario game, I don't think they'd be that confused because you're still doing platforming. They're still trying to jump on a gum. I mean, that's true of Mario RPG as well, but it feels like it looks like a Mario game should have been.
No, I'm thinking about it. Mario RPG is like what Mario RPG feels like a Final Fantasy game that they added Mario elements into, and this feels like a Mario game that they added RPG elements into. Like it feels like the starting point was more Mario. I would say it's more like 60-40, 60 Mario, 40 RPG, but that's all speculation. But no, I think this game just feels more Mario focused, and I think that's why it kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't. I think by having the party members not be as directly connected to the story doesn't bother me as much because I don't feel like, at least in these games, they need it. I think they've done a good enough job with the gameplay and having Mario be the focal point that it doesn't detract, especially because story isn't a focal point. So it's not like if story is already not a focal point and then you want to force characters into having story beats with Mario in a story that already isn't the focal point, it's going to feel more, I feel like it would have been more like shoehorned in type of thing if they had done it that way.
Just to keep chatting a little bit about the RPG system, we've been talking about the partners, been talking about the timed hits and stuff. Having played a bunch of other RPGs, how much do you think this holds up in terms of the genre, in terms of difficulty, gameplay? I mentioned at the start, some people might not call this a proper RPG, but do you?
I do, because you do level up stats of some type. Most people in RPG just means you have a leveling system and your stats go up. This game is interesting as an RPG because it doesn't level up in the ways that other RPGs do. When you level up, you don't really keep track of your level per se. It's not like Mario's level 20 something. At least not that I forget if they even keep track of the level number. But what they do is that every time you level up, your stats don't go up, but you can choose one of three things to improve. You can either choose your HP, your FP, which is your flower points, and your BP, which is your badge points. HP is self-explanatory. Your health is going up. But what's interesting is that like Mario's defense doesn't go up when he levels up. Your health does. Like, you're increasing the buffer, but you're not increasing like
Yeah.
Mario's toughness, which is interesting. For FP, which is essentially like your magic points or your MP in almost any other RPG, it's the same thing. Like, you're not increasing Mario's magic points, you're just increasing the frequency Mario is able to do magic or do an ability. So though you do get power-ups through weapons later on, like you get better weapons from what I remember. And that's where you can increase your attack or whatnot. But it's interesting is that, like, it's an RPG that you almost level up like the tangential things outside of your stats, but not your stats itself. And it's especially true with the badge system, because the badge system is you can equip badges to Mario and your characters, and the more badge points you have, the more badges you can equip. So, and what's interesting about those is that those are kind of like stat boosts and as ability boosts, but not necessarily. Like, there's tons of different badges you can get. There's badges that'll increase your health, there's badges that'll increase your defense or your attack, but then there's also ones that will just change sound effects just because. Like, if you want to change sound effects, which do also affect the gameplay depending on the boss that you're fighting. There's badges that allow you bigger grace window for your dodge period or stuff like that. Like, it's interesting where what the game does for its RPG mechanics is that it's not giving you leveling up in a classic sense. You're not getting, I'm not level 5 now with +2 to my defense and +1 to my attack and +4 to my magic of whatever class I may be choosing or whatnot. But you level up and you can choose how you want the focus on which your character needs or you want. So by increasing badge points, you increase the variety of moves that your character can do. By increasing flower points, you increase the frequency of special moves your character can do, and increasing your health points is the closest thing to upgrading defense, because it's just, you're upgrading the buffer in which the amount of damage you can take. So I think this game's a really interesting RPG because it takes RPG mechanics and just kind of like looks at them sideways. It doesn't flip it on its head. It doesn't completely subvert the genre, but it's like, what if we just took RPGs and just, let's tilt our head sideways and look at it from this angle. And at least that's kind of how I viewed it when I first played it. And I was very surprised by it. Because I was expecting, like in, the Mario and Luigi games, you have actual stats that you can boost and stuff like that. This, you don't have stats, sort of, but you do, but you don't. It's very different and interesting. And that's what I would say about this. I do think it holds up as an RPG, and I think it's a very interesting RPG because it does things that you wouldn't, it handles the leveling up and the stats in ways you wouldn't really expect.
Yeah, we talked about it in Thousand Year Door. There's a game called Bug Fables, but also there's a few other games which it's almost like Paper Mario is as its own subgenre of RPG now. Even like Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which is like one of the nominated games of the year. It's this big RPG. People are talking about it as changing the way RPGs are done. Essentially what it's done is add a bit of Paper Mario elements to it.
Okay, I have yet to play it. I've been wanting to play it for a while now, and I have not had a chance. I haven't been able to pull the trigger on getting a copy yet.
It essentially, it's much more, grown up and RPG like, but it essentially adds in the kind of timed hit mechanic from this, and also like the badge system. And there's no complaints from me. I love the badge system. I think it's a really fun way of customizing the game in the way that you want to play it, especially in a game without as much customization of like the party and like giving people the weapons and the armor and stuff you want. This is a lot simpler, but badges obviously make it a little bit deeper than it seems on the surface. And of course, the other kind of RPG trope, I suppose, is towns and items and currency and all those kinds of things. How do you feel about Toad Town as a hub world?
I like it, actually. I'm a fan of hub worlds. Maybe I shouldn't say a fan, but I like it in this instance. I actually, like, I've said before, I enjoyed this one more than Thousand Year Door, and part of it is that like Thousand Year Door, the hub town. What's the name of the town in Thousand Year Door?
Rogueport.
Rogueport. Thank you.
Yeah.
it felt very disjointed to me. It didn't feel like everything was really like connected to it. So the fact that it for all intents and purposes, it is a hub town. Like you have to go, you start there and you leave and return consistently, just like you do in Toad Town here. But with Paper Mario on the N64, this Paper Mario, it all felt like one cohesive world. It felt like they were all part of each other because you could literally walk to one or to the other. Like in Rogueport, like you're going down going down into the sewers feels like you're in a completely different world. It doesn't even feel like you're part of Rogueport at one point. And in this, I don't know, I never felt like I truly left the Mushroom Kingdom because you just are constantly circling around Toad Town and you're going there and back and blah blah blah. But I always felt it just kind of worked, and I don't know. I like it in this. I think it builds immersion in a weird sense where it feels like almost, I'm not artistically inclined, but to me, like visually, it feels more visually cohesive than the other. Once again, I've only played Thousand Year Door, so I can't speak for the other Paper Mario games out after that. But at least out of the two I've played, this one felt more visually cohesive.
Yeah, I mean, future Paper Mario games have started to establish that Paper Mario is kind of its own universe. I guess most explicitly, there's a Paper Mario and Luigi series kind of crossover, which establishes that Paper Mario and Mario are separate beings, which is great news for future Smash Brothers inclusions, maybe. But when this game came out, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought it was an art style and this is Mario. And so for a long time, there was a big thrill from me seeing that Peach's Castle looks essentially like it does in Mario 64. And then this is Toad Town. This is the capital of the Mushroom Kingdom. And it really felt like world building in a way that mattered. And I still think of this version of the Mushroom Kingdom being the version that I think is real in a way. And I think it's been nice. I mean, there's a few little references in future Mario games to Paper Mario, not too many. We now kind of established that a place is called Dry Desert. It kind of shows up a few times. The star sprites did make a couple of appearances on the GameCube. They were considered a part of the lore for a while. They were in a Mario Party game. And then the Boss, the Goomba King, shows up a couple of times.
The mobster boss. That what you're talking about? No, I'm thinking. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm thinking
the King Goomba.
Yeah.
Did show up in the Mario Kart game. There's been a few little hints here and there, but largely this is kept separate. Is there any element of this game that you would most like to see brought back in just a future regular Mario game, like the next Mario Odyssey or whatever?
An element of this brought into the mainline Mario.
Yeah.
In a weird sense, I think, and the only reason I'm thinking about this is because Mario Maker has kind of opened up the possibility for this. I feel like if you kind of do like I mentioned before, I really like the murder mystery type of thing. And I understand Mario games aren't really known for their story. So I'm not saying you have to go hog wild and create a Knives Out level of whodunit type of thing. But do something like that, like you've seen people do with Mario Maker, lots of really interesting creative ideas with the 2D platformer, where they'll still give you platforming challenges, but find a way to weave a little story around it. And I feel like if there's a way you could do some of the, I'm not going to say story. I don't need a Mario murder mystery as a 2D platformer, but almost as set pieces or backdrops or thematic type of things. Make that into almost make movie tropes a thematic part of the levels, as opposed to almost all the thematic stuff is here's your grasslands, here's your water world, here's your fire world, here's your air world, here's your wetlands, stuff like that. Maybe try doing some thematic stuff like what you see in the Mario RPG games, where each area kind of has a trope that goes with it, almost a storytelling trope. I'm thinking in the what is it, Dry Desert or whatever the name of that place is. Dry Desert and Outpost, whatnot. That one kind of has a little bit of like a Indiana Jones type of vibe, because you have what's the Koopa's name that you keep having to like save his marriage? Colorado, something like that. Like I would love to see something like that. How would they do it? I don't know. Like I'm not that. I feel like I'd have to sit down and really think about it, but I'm also not a professional game designer like Nintendo obviously is. But I think that'd be kind of cool to kind of change, kind of maybe stay away from the thematic material, the thematic themes that we're used to of like your typical grassland, blah, 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 and maybe try to go into like storytelling tropes as it be. Like movies would be the easiest shorthand for it, but you could do anything. And they kind of have dabbled in that. Like if I think of Mario Odyssey with like the dragon area, right? I also even think of the later ones where like Mario Odyssey. Yeah, it's in Mario Odyssey where you go to like kind of like the Japan areas where like Mario can like put Cappy onto the bird and like zoom in like that kind of. They kind of dabbled a little bit of that with Super Mario Odyssey, but I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a regular Mario game where you don't solve every problem by jumping on something 3 times. But like you say, like you have to solve a little murder, or I like in Thousand Year Door, there's like a whole tournament wrestling arc or something like that, which is also weirdly a kind of ghost mystery and all that kind of stuff. I think that'd be nice. I would definitely, the thing I would like to see brought forward into the main Mario universe is I just like seeing characters like Lady Bow or Goombario or people like individual people in using the kind of stock Mario enemies but making them actual individual characters. I think the RPGs have fun doing, but I'd love to see that more in the other games, so we wouldn't just get endless like identical Toads or endless identical Goombas. That's what I'd like. I'm curious, did you play for Thousand Year Door? Did you play the remake or the original?
I played the original. I did not play. I mean, it was emulated, so but I played it there. But yeah, I didn't play the remake.
The remake was very well received because it was very faithful. It just made things look kind of sharp and polished, tidied up a couple of little loose ends. Do you think this game is in need of a remake, or is it perfect as it is?
A remake. So here's the thing. I think that if you're going to do a remake, you got to change some things up. This one, I'm sure if I really sat down and thought, I think that you could totally do a remake of this. I think just in general, like just nicer, HDified. I think that'd be fine. I mean, I believe is it on Nintendo Switch Online, this game?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, you could obviously play it on there. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily needs it. I would like it just because I think it's a like remakes always get more buzz than a port onto an emulator on the Switch Online service, right? So like, the remake of Thousand Year Door brought people back to Thousand Year Door. It put it on the tips of more people's tongues. Seeing something gets announced for the Switch Online service doesn't really do that. So I would like it from that perspective, but like the only reason I would want them to do it is if they could add some quality of life improvements. And even now, I'm having a hard time thinking of what I would do because I didn't think this game had too many issues. Actually, like yeah, there's issues, but I mean, like in terms of like quality of life issues, like I never really felt like I had to meander too much. I never really felt like I had to. I don't know. Like there was never really a moment that I was like really wishing for a modern convenience or modern comfort. Like the controller scheme is fine. Like you don't like it's not complex. You don't need to like really you don't need to update it because the controller scheme that the game came out in is garbage. I'm thinking of like Resident Evil, like no one likes tank controls anymore, right? Like when they updated Resident Evil, they completely changed the control scheme, made it into a much more modern third person action game. In this, I mean, I can't think of. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who probably have issues with this game that could probably think of a handful of things. I just didn't have many issues. So, would I like to see it? Why not? But it would only really be an HD remake. So I don't know how much of a point there would be unless they could find some way to change it for the better.
Yeah, I genuinely can't think of anything. This is a rare Mario moment game where I can't really think of a criticism. I would say maybe at a stretch, I think sometimes walking around the place can be slow. You have that weird spin move, which feels like maybe
That's really fun.
it is fun. It does feel like one of those maybe like testing things they left in the game,
Mm.
like a lot of run moves. But yeah, I can't think of anything. I think, like you say, it would have to just be an HD, extremely faithful remake, or truly just like adding a new chapter or something like that. That's all I have. So before we finish, I want to just indulge myself and take a moment to talk about a fan theory I've had that I've not seen anyone else really talk about online. And this is very silly, but basically, as I said earlier, when this game came out, I saw this as like Mario canon. Like, this is a Mario adventure. It's not a separate universe. It's not a separate whatever. And I want to talk about the character of Junior Trooper, who is a slightly mysterious character who shows up for a bunch of boss battles.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly recently hatched, but he doesn't seem to have any parents or anything. But one of the things we do know about him is that he's incredibly magical. In fact, he uses very similar magic powers as the Star Rod. And it is my theory that Junior Trooper is Bowser Jr., who officially made his debut a year later in Mario Sunshine, who we do not know who the actual parent is, but I believe was wished into existence by a Bowser who was in love with Peach, who he later claims is Bowser Jr.'s mother. And this was his like Star Rod wish to have a nuclear family and a happy life, but he somehow materialized Junior Trooper somewhere else in the Mario universe. And that's my theory. I've never seen anyone else talk about it.
I honestly kind of buy it, because hold on, let me look up a picture of Bowser Jr. real quick. Hold on, because looking at his face, looking at Junior Trooper's face, yeah, there's a little bit of that same smirk. Now, the only difference is that Bowser Jr., he's got the whole turtle shell type of thing, but unless he just you don't see his. He hasn't in terms of like, I'm thinking of 101 Dalmatians, he hasn't grown his spots yet type of thing.
Also, I mean, he doesn't look that different to how at the time Koopas were depicted when you like pop them out of their shells.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that he's just a baby Koopa and they get given their spiky shells later. I don't know, but I think there's something in this.
We haven't really learned the breeding habits of Koopa yet, and Nintendo hasn't released that lore doc yet.
No, the only information we know about Bowser Jr.'s parentage is that Shigeru Miyamoto claims to be his mother from a really bizarre interview. But I just thought I'd get that out there and see if anyone else agrees.
So your fan theory makes me think of my own. While we were recording, I didn't bring it up, but while we were recording, I was thinking, is the playable character Watt, the son, is he just like, does he get pissed off that he never sees Mario again and becomes the angry son in Super Mario Brothers 3? I'm just saying.
That's a very good theory. I mean, the idea that the entire son could have beef with Mario is something that Mario Brothers 3, like, it's a question that we end the game not having answered.
I mean, there is that whole theory that Mario is just an animal abuser. So like, does he see it and he's just mad about it? He's finally had enough by the third game. He's like, I'm tired of you abusing all these animals. Stop punching Yoshi. Stop don't kidnap Donkey Kong Jr. I don't know. But when I looked at it, I'm like, did they really just take the angry son and make that like a playable character for you? And then I'm thinking, well, if that's the case, is that the angry son just a baby version? I don't know.
I don't know. I think he's meant to be a version of those enemies that would like stick to surfaces, like little like fireballs and stuff from Mario World, but it's not very clear. And I would say Watt and Spike, the Lakitu, that's the part of the game where they're just introducing characters, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fall in love with any of these characters at that stage. Like we have enough. I think they get a little bit of the short straw. But yes, I think that's a great place to enter the question block. Yay! This is the portion of the show where we do quick fire questions on a slightly sillier side. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Great. So, question number 1. Who is your main when playing Mario Kart or other Mario spin-offs?
I famously am not a big Mario Kart fan, but if I had to choose one, it would be Yoshi.
Wow, famously. I can't wait to hear all the debates on.
No, it's just so one of my Mario months, I covered actually Mario Kart. Oh, sorry, I already covered Mario Kart 64, Double Dash, or what's the Super Circuit, all the 5 in a row. I'm starting at Mario Kart 64 because I already covered the original one prior. And that was my attempt to like start trying to like Mario Kart games, and it really just boils down to I just don't vibe with them. Like there's nothing bad with them. I don't have like this mechanic drives me up a wall. It's just one of those things where it's like it's just never been something I really enjoyed all that much. Though I do like the original one quite a bit, even though I didn't grow up with it. I like playing the original one quite a bit.
Hey, there's no judgment here. Do you think you would like the Mario Kart series more if they added a Paper Mario character to the roster?
No, it would be the same because of the same gameplay mechanics, right? Like kart racers are fun to an extent, but it's for some reason it just never really like. I don't know. They were always just fine to me. I shouldn't say that I dislike them, but there's no emotion I have for them, not positive or negative. I'm just kind of like they're there. I'm glad people like them.
It's kind of interesting because for a lot of people, when you just say Mario, they think Mario Kart. Like it's almost bigger than the series itself. But
it's funny. I think of the 2D platformers, or not like the old ones, but I'm thinking of Mario Wonder or Odyssey or something like that.
So, if you could befriend one of Mario's partners in this game and use their skills in real life, who would you choose?
Oh, that's something we didn't even talk about with the gameplay, all the different skills the characters have outside of combat. I would probably go with Lackluster, not because okay, let me do it this way. Lackluster for his abilities, because I love being able to just kind of float over things. That would be freaking awesome. If I had to go for personality, I would probably go with Goombario or Cooper. Okay. Just because they seem like they're just be chill, like you could hang out with them, you know. But for actual ability, it'd be like Lackluster.
I mean, Goombario would be pretty useful in real life because he seems to know everything about everyone.
Oh man, what's this person's secret trauma? Okay, buckle up your sit down.
Seem to learn a lot, even though he comes from a very secluded village. So which Mario enemy type do you think should be a partner character in a future Paper Mario game?
I don't know I don't know if this is in future Paper Mario game. Like I said, I've only played up to 1,000 Year Door. Wiggler. I think a Wiggler would be really fun because since it already kind of like compresses and then stretches out, you could totally use that for like bridges and stuff like that. You could maybe even use it as like in terms of an enemy type, it could do like AoE attacks, like spin around like a merry-go-round or something like that. Like there'd be lots of different options, I feel like, with a Wiggler, because normally whenever you see them, they're just the dudes that get mad because Mario, they're like passive until you bop them on the head and they're like, what the hell? And then they chase after you. So like, I would love to, rage would be a really fun mechanic for the character too. Like, I feel like a Wiggler would be a really cool idea.
I really like that idea. And sadly, spoilers for the rest of the Paper Mario franchise, Thousand Year Door is where this partner idea basically stops.
Oh, okay.
They have characters in the future that sort of fill a role, but the Paper Mario fandom is very much missing the proper partner mechanics. If you could add one badge to the game, what would it be?
Ooh, they really thought up a lot of the stuff I would have. I guess if I had to choose one, I would make it like give something where have a badge that would allow one of the characters who can only attack on like a ground level be able to attack in the air and vice versa, because like it's always a pain in the butt when it's like you go into a boss, you don't know the mechanics yet, you're like, oh, I can only hit this in the air, I guess I gotta waste a turn here and get Cooper off and bring someone else in who can hit air, or and vice versa. I think something like that, or maybe even a badge that would allow to do a hot swap like immediately, like type of thing. That's what I would want.
This game isn't like hard in the way that some RPGs are, but there's definitely moments where you're fighting like a spiked flying enemy and you've run out of FP and you don't have the right badge and you like basically can't progress. And that's kind of the way it makes it hard. You have to kind of go back and rethink the strategy a little bit.
It's frustrating when you get soft locked into a fight and then you kind of have to reset or die.
Yeah. If you were one of the star sprites, what would you do upon being summoned?
I don't know. I forget what half the summons are now too, because I genuinely forgot that you can summon the star sprites in battle, and that was a major mechanic. If I were knowing me, and my wife would probably say this as well, I would basically cast confusion, because I talk way too damn much in my real life. So I would just kind of show up and kind of like whisper into their ear really quickly to the point where they're just confused, and then they are confused for like 5 turns because I talk too much.
Well, this game loves to do the joke, but like NPC talks too much and Mario falls asleep. The second game does that.
There we go. I would make him fall asleep.
As like a podcaster, you just like put headphones on Mario and start chatting, and then
you see the star sprite come in with like a microphone and like a pod. That actually would be really funny. There's a Joe Rogan joke somewhere in there too. Just falling asleep.
So, finally, what other game series do you think deserves its own paper RPG spin-off?
Ratchet and Clank.
Ooh.
I'm a huge fan of the Ratchet and Clank games. I think that would be awesome. There's a lot of small side characters. I'm not an expert on the games. I don't remember all the side characters off the top of my head. But like, obviously you have Ratchet, you have Clank, you have Captain Quark, you have Dr. Nefarious, you have the janitor who always shows up in almost every game, or the plumber shows up in almost every game. You could also see Skid McMarks, who I know was in the first one. I don't know if I can't remember off the top of my head if he's made any other appearances, but like the humor is already there. You could totally do something like that. I would love to see a paper version of Britney Gears. That was you ever played Ratchet and Clank? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm afraid I haven't. All these names have been going over my head a little bit, but they sound funny.
In the third one, they have like innuendos for all their games. So the first one's just Ratchet and Clank. Second one is Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. Third one is Up Your Arsenal. Fourth one is Deadlock, so the pun kind of goes away from there. But then they have Tools of Destruction, Quest for Booty, Size Matters is one. Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, and it's one where you like shrink down and up and down. So that's like kind of the mechanic. But like, there's enough characters in it and like goofy one-offs. And in the third one, they have a character named Brittany Gears who I wonder who she could be a representation of. The game also came out in like 2004, so it's like very much like right in that time wheel of time. So yeah, I would love to see Ratchet and Clank get like a paper RPG spin-off, just because that would be so weird and goofy, and I don't think it would sell well at all, but I'd still want it anyway, so I would go Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the series, but even the idea of Mario and Luigi RPG style, like combo moves and stuff, like sounds quite fun. Great, thank you so much for coming on the show, Josh. And I think Paper Mario and all the Mario RPGs, it's quite hard to cover everything about these games in just one podcast episode. It sounds like Still Loading is the perfect place for people to get even deeper dives on all these kinds of games. So
I try.
I know. I think you definitely do your research. You're definitely more well versed than me in a lot of areas of gaming, and I'll definitely be listening to a lot of the backlog.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, and you're welcome anytime. We are also going to be covering the Mario cartoons next season as a lead up to the new movie, and I'm very intrigued to do so.
They are fun. I will say this: have you watched the Super Show? I mean, you had to, I guess, because okay.
I grew up with them very much, and they were actually like a frequent rental from like Blockbusters and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, my favorite thing about that show is, believe it or not, the live action segments. I want someone to recreate that set somewhere, like at a convention. I'm not saying it has to be like a permanent thing that people go and visit. I'm saying at a convention, someone needs to recreate the Super Mario Brothers Super Show like set that they have with Lou Albano and Danny Wells stopping in with their pal Radigator and everything. I want to see that so bad. That show, I unironically really enjoy it. I'm not saying it's like my favorite show of all time, but it's surprisingly enjoyable for how silly it is.
Yeah, it's definitely people making stuff with love and having a good time, and it's not like a totally cynical cash grab or anything. Well, I would love to have you back. Love to listen to more Still Loading. If there's anywhere else people can find you online.
Sure. If you are on social media, I'm at stillloadingpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at stillloadingpod on Instagram, technically on Facebook by proxy and Threads, but I don't really do anything on either of those. It's just kind of there. I stream on Twitch whenever the hell I'm able to, at stillloadingpod over on there. I don't have a schedule, unfortunately. I know that's how you're supposed to grow as a Twitch streamer, but like I'm a dad, I work full time, and I do the podcast. I can't commit to a consistent schedule. So if you're curious and you want to see me playing games, I'm over there periodically, and I'm on Blue Sky. I'm mainly on Blue Sky and Instagram, so those are the places you can find me. And you can find the Still Loading podcast wherever you get your podcasts: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all YouTube Music, all that stuff. So I was trying to remember all the different locations, but yeah, so that's me.
Well, you can also find Super Mario Moment on Blue Sky and Instagram and wherever you get your podcasts, and obviously on YouTube, all of that. We're a proud member of the queer podcasting network Glitterjaw, which has lots of great shows, has a few other video game podcasts as well, and a few new shows starting very soon. I'm going to take this opportunity to obviously say we are back next week with an episode on Mario Galaxy, but in 2 weeks' time, I would love you to come back for our big, spectacular Glitterjaw crossover Christmas quiz I am doing. I'm very excited for that. It's going to be a really fun episode with many of your Glitterjaw favorites as guests. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Josh. And until next time, so long, gay Bowsers.